no matter where you are in the world. I'm, of course, right here in Tokyo, Japan. What we're going to talk about in this video will be slightly startling to you, yet it does appear to be the truth. Now, as time goes along, more and more information about the actual ins and outs of the Fukushima nuclear power plant becomes available. Now, we're going to get into something that Mr. Akio Matsumura, who has reported and done a little digging, contacted experts he knows on the actual conditions of the fuel rods at Fukushima. Now, a little bit about Mr. Akio. He is a renowned diplomat. This comes from his own website. He is a renowned diplomat who has dedicated his life to building bridges between government, business, and spiritual leaders in the cause of world peace. He is the founder and Secretary General of the Global Forum on Spiritual and Parliamentary Leaders on Human Survival, with conferences held in Oxford, Moscow, Rio de Janeiro, Kyoto, and one more place called Konya. Because that's a little bit about Mr. Matsumura. He seems to be pretty much a diplomatic expert and a man who has dedicated his life to creating a better world. Now, the first thing that came to Mr. Akio Matsumura's attention was something that the let me get this information here. The former Japanese ambassador to Switzerland, Mr. Mitsuhi Murata, made statements when he was invited to speak at the public hearing of the Budgetary Committee at the House of Chancellors on March 22nd of 2012. I have the actual statements that he made. This is what he reported to Mr. Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the United Nations. I'll give you an excerpt of what he said. He said, "I was asked to make a statement at the public hearing of the Budgetary Committee in the House of Chancellors on March 23rd. He said, I raised the critical problem of the number 4 reactor of Fukushima containing 1,535 fuel rods. It's quite a lot. It could be fatally damaged by continuing aftershocks. Now, we all know that Fukushima has had routine, strong aftershocks. He says, moreover, 50 meters away from it exists a common cooling pool for 6 reactors containing 6,375 fuel rods. He goes on to say, it is no exaggeration to say the fate of Japan and the whole of the world depends on the number 4 reactor. Now, he says the fate of the whole world. This is an expert, an insider, a former ambassador. So he does have access to this type of information. He says this is confirmed to be the most reliable experts like Dr. Ann Gunderson and Dr. Fumaki Koida. Now he says, please allow me to inform you that of the initiative being taken by former UN officials who is endeavoring to have the Nuclear Security Summit take up this critical problem of the number 4 reactor of Fukushima. He is pursuing the establishment of an independent assessment team. I think his efforts are very significant because it is indispensable to draw the attention of the world to this vital issue. Now, those are awfully strong statements coming from any type of Japanese official, Japanese former official. This is almost unprecedented for him to say this. So, of course, Mr. Matsumura picked up on this and decided to investigate just a little more. So, he took time to contact the top spent fuel rods expert basically in the world, Mr. Robert Alvarez. Mr. Alvarez is the former Senior Policy Advisor to the Secretary and Deputy Assistant Secretary for National Security and Environment at the U.S. Department of Energy. He wanted an explanation of the potential impact of the total 11,421 rods. It is an awfully high number. As we all know, Fukushima was a massively large nuclear power plant. Now, Mr. Matsumura himself said that he was astonished by Mr. Alvarez's response. I'll read you a little bit of Mr. Alvarez's response to Mr. Matsumura to just get a feel of just how serious this is, to back up the claims made by the former Swiss ambassador of Japan. He said in recent times more information about the spent fuel situation at Fukushima Daiichi site become known. He said it's his understanding that of the 1,532 spent fuel assemblies in reactor number 4, assemblies are fresh. Number 304, excuse me, are fresh and unirradiated. Excuse me. I said this then leaves 1,231 irradiated spent fuel rods in number 4, which contain roughly 37 million curies of long-lived radioactivity. Now, the number 4 pool, as he says, is about 100 feet above ground. The structure is structurally damaged and is exposed to open elements. We already know this. If an earthquake or another event were to cause this pool to drain, this would result in a catastrophic radiological fire, which, involving nearly 10 times the amount of cesium-137 released at the Chernobyl accident. That's pretty serious. He goes on to say the infrastructure of safety to remove the material was destroyed, as it was at the other 3 reactors that have melted down. Spent reactor fuel cannot be simply lifted into the air by a crane as if it were routine cargo. So you can't just pull them up, take them out. He says in order to prevent severe radiation exposure, fires and possible explosions, it must be transferred at all times in water and heavily shielded structures into dry cast, where it can then cool down and safely be disposed of, or as safe as you could possibly get, considering of what we're talking about here. As this has never been done before, the removal of spent fuel from the pool at the damaged Fukushima Daiichi reactors require a major and time-consuming reconstruction effort that will be charting in unknown waters. Despite the enormous destruction caused at the Daiichi site, dry casks holding a similar amount of spent fuel appear to be unscathed in more safer conditions. Now, what this gentleman, Mr. Alvarez, is basically telling us that the situation at Fukushima is so bad and so unprecedented that nobody really knows how to pull this off. No one has ever attempted this major type of construction work, this major type of effort to safely remove the spent fuel rods that are still intact, which are thousands. Now, what have we seen TEPCO and the Japanese government respond to this clear thing that experts know are eventually going to have to be done, right? What we have seen is silence. No plan. No talk of what they're going to do. They just keep it the same old of cover up, don't release information, don't have serious talks about what to do. basically TEPCO and the JGov, are holding their breath, hoping that these spent fuel rods do not collapse and they're destroyed and threaten the safety of the entire world. So, what is the Japanese government going to do about this? You have Mr. Matsumura looking into this and bringing us up. We have a representative from the U.S. Department of Energy being very frank about the situation. And then we have the Japanese government being completely silent. So this begs the question, is the Japanese government even discussing what to do? Or are they following the same political process that caused Fukushima to be so subpar in its safety standards that it could not withstand major earthquakes and major tsunamis and was not ready to handle this? And why every fail-safe that was supposed to prevent this failed? We know why it failed. It failed because of cronyism, corruption, TEPCO basically taking over the Japanese Nuclear Regulatory Agency by putting former employees into positions within the government. So we have total silence on this. This is a serious issue. You know, when I first read this and what Mr. Alvarez said, even I was taken aback by this, and I've been following this story very closely for obvious reasons because I'm right in this country, here in Japan. So when I read things like this, it affects me a bit more strongly than it would someone who is not living here right now. Again, when I have Mr. Alvarez saying things like this is unknown waters, this is unprecedented, time-consuming reconstruction effort, all that brings up images in my head of the liquidators at Chernobyl and what they had to do. That was unprecedented construction, and that was time-consuming. And even today, you know, the liquidators, many of them are dead, extremely sick, ill and suffering. Their children are suffering. Their children have had defects and problems, health concerns. And these men gave their lives for this. So, another question we could ask is the workers at Fukushima currently, what are they working for? What are they working on? What type of cleanup is being done there? Very little information about what's being done. Are the people who are sacrificing their future and their lives to try to, quote-unquote, contain the Fukushima disaster, what are they sacrificing their lives for? If this type of effort is not already in the works and already being planned and carried out now, then the workers at Fukushima may very well be literally throwing their lives away for nothing. And these are important questions to ask. These are important questions to bring up. Now, even me as an independent journalist, I think expressing these ideas and opinions may very well be completely valid. Asking these type of questions, bringing up these type of points. So that's what I want to report on with this video and bring to light this type of information, just to show you how far behind the Japanese government is getting on dealing with this, and just how deadly serious this is. It's not just going to affect Japan. If those rods collapse, it's going to affect the entire planet, the whole future of humanity.